Hello and welcome to the Vaults of Terra. My name is Ed and today I just wanted to do something slightly different. In honour of YouTube Geek Week, I wanted to share with you guys why exactly I am a Warhammer 40,000 lore nerd, and why the universe of Warhammer 40,000 interests me so much. Now, I was first introduced to Warhammer 40,000 through the tabletop game, which is probably how a lot of people got started with it before the video games came along. Now, this was when I was about 10, and I really hadn't had any exposure to board games like that before. I'd played Monopoly, obviously, but I wasn't really aware of any of the other games, such as the tabletop war games that were quite big at the time. So my father, for my 10th birthday, took me into a Games Workshop, where I had my first Warhammer 40,000 game with a few of my friends. Now it was the Blood Angels versus the Orcs back then, and it was a really great game. I enjoyed it, and even though I obviously was pretty terrible with the rules and didn't know anything at all, it got me really interested in Warhammer 40,000. After that, I then started introducing my friends to Warhammer 40,000, and pretty much within a few months, the entire male part of my year group at school was dedicated to Warhammer 40,000, the board game. So there was games going on, people making models, people collecting armies, and getting together and playing these games, which I felt was really great fun. So, of course, for a lot of them it was a passing phase. Most people either stopped collecting or got rid of their miniatures, selling them off on Amazon and things like that. But a few of us, such as myself, stuck at the hobby, and we sort of got more immersed in not just the hobby of playing the games, making the models, painting the models, but also getting into the background of it. Now, of course, I wasn't spectacular at the game, and I'm still not. I'm relatively passable. I can do the odd game, I know the rules, but I don't win all that often. And so, although it didn't put me off Warhammer 40,000, it got me more interested in learning about the lore rather than playing the game. That doesn't mean I left the hobby entirely. I still collect the models. I mean, I started off with a Blood Angels army, my favourite Space Marine army, and I think one of my favourite Space Marine armies lore-wise. I then moved on to collecting other armies as well, because I wanted to get... It was around about the time of the Pokemon phases when I wanted to get them all, so I think I had some sort of target set to get all the armies in Warhammer, which is really ridiculous considering the amount I would have had to spend, but still, I went through all the phases, I got different armies. I started with the Imperial Guard, which I then painted some custom paint job which was hideous. I then moved on to the Eldar, and then after spending some time with the Eldar and realising I'm really terrible with warriors who can't take any hits, I then moved on to the Tyranids, which was even worse. I just sort of built a horde army which got mashed to pieces every time it faced the Elder, who I'd given to my dad, who is actually really good with them. And finally I moved off the Tyranids and moved on to the Dark Eldar, who were recently re-released, and I still use them today. Now, of course, I don't play that often, so I'm not very up on the rules at the moment, but I have been going out and enjoying the hobby since 6th edition came out, so it's been good fun. But the lore side of Warhammer 40,000 is the reason I keep up with the hobby, because Warhammer 40,000 lore is quite different from any other lore for any other science fiction universe out there, and it's probably because because of the background it represents. Now, obviously Warhammer 40,000 is different from, say, Star Trek or Star Wars in that it's very much grim dark, which is a term that Warhammer 40,000 actually coined, the grim darkness of the far future. Now, the reason it contrasts so much is because it doesn't portray humanity as superior anyway, or on any sort of moral high ground, or having any sort of advantage. Humanity is very much the underdog in the Warhammer 40,000 universe. It's taken a massive pounding over the last 30,000 years, and it has taken incredible amounts of strength from humanity to continue for so long. And it's because of this that Warhammer 40,000 has grown to have a huge amount of background lore about all the races, lore about all the conflicts that have happened, lore about the history of the races, the history of armies. It's incredible how much detail has been put in to just what started as painted miniatures that were used in tabletop gaming. And because of this, I've always felt that Warhammer 40,000 is very rich, whereas a lot of science fiction universes have lots of gaps in them. So say you put Warhammer 40,000 up against most modern science fiction, you'll see just the weight of background information is huge. I mean, I've described it before as Tolkien-esque, and that is how I feel it is. It is literally books and books and books and manuals and magazines and gaming tomes and things like the RPG, just hundreds and hundreds of pages of material that could keep you going for many, many years, which is really why I started the Vaults of Terra, because there is so much lore out there that it's almost impossible for anyone to really understand it all, and you get a lot of these conflicts. Now, if you've ever perused the comments section of any of my videos, you will see there's a lot of people with different opinions on lore that I talked about. Now, obviously, I have no problem with people having different opinions on the lore or saying that certain areas of background lore are different. Of course, everything I read out, I've researched myself, but I never hold myself out as having researched everything and seen everything. And so, yeah, I'm not always going to be right, and that's cool. I don't mind not being right, because obviously there's all you guys out there who are willing to call me out on anything I get wrong and highlight to others where the information is. This is what the Vaults of Terra is ultimately. It's a place where people can listen to the lore whilst doing something else, and then discuss it in the comments section. And hopefully it sort of gets people a bit more inspired, because I know there are a lot of people out there who have just played the video games, such as Fire Warrior, the Dawn of War series, which I do like, by the way, and things like Space Marine. Now, obviously, these are very mere scratches into the surface that is Warhammer 40,000, but for a lot of people, this is all they've seen. So what I like is that people who have just seen that come to the Vaults of Terra or anywhere else that displays Warhammer 40,000 lore, and go away having learnt more about this background, having learnt that there's so much more to actually see than just the generic Space Marine firing his generic weapon at the generic alien. And that is why I love Warhammer 40,000. Everything has a history. The weapons that are used by the Space Marines, the bolt guns have a history, the chainswords have a history, all the armour has history, everything about them has some sort of background lore that can be described. The same with any other race, the Tau and their weaponry, the Imperial Guard and how they operate, the Inquisition and all the secret things they do in order to sustain the Imperium. There is just an immense amount of information. And of course, I get the distinct impression I'm probably not going to be able to go through all of it on these videos. It's quite likely that I'll either die of old age, or I will lose the interest of the fans before I finish going over every single area of lore. But that's okay, because all I want to do is make people aware that there is more lore out there. There's so much for you to see. The Black Library has hundreds of books, and no, I'm not being paid by them, but still it's good to highlight it. And Warhammer 40,000 has so much to offer for people. I mean, the thing is, Games Workshop has always been good. A lot of people don't like the way they do business, but they've always supported the fan community in getting together more information, getting together more lore, and making it seem like the hobby that they're engaged in has real weight, real history, and that when they play those little board games, it's not just them playing chess on some meaningless board with featureless characters. It is them having a very real struggle between good and evil, between those that are righteous and those that are corrupt, in reality between two different viewpoints in a universe, such as any viewpoint in the modern day. Now, that's another thing I like about Warhammer 40,000. Although it was created in the 80s, and you will definitely see throughout Warhammer lots of 80s tropes, lots of things about the 80s that were very cheesy, lots of stuff from 80s movies like Terminator and Aliens, but still, it is something that has evolved and talks about real issues that happen today. There's things like insurgencies, terrorism, there's difference of opinions, there's wars fought and secret battles by intelligence agencies. Everything that really is happening in today's world can be mirrored in the Warhammer 40,000 universe in some dark reflection in a cyberpunk universe. However, I can see why a lot of people make the comment, why would you want to live in the Warhammer 40,000 universe? What is so interesting about it when everything seems so bleak? Humanity is being destroyed, there's vicious aliens everywhere, there's religious persecution, hatred, xenophobia, there's a lot of really dark elements to Warhammer 40,000 that makes a lot of people question why anyone would want to support such a background lore. Now, I contest that by saying the reason I think Warhammer 40,000 lore is not as dark as we think is that a lot of what they've written about is about hope. Humanity could quite have easily been destroyed by the Horus Heresy. Humanity could quite easily be crushed by the forces of the aliens outside, who seek only to destroy the Imperium, because that is the universe in which they live. But humanity has not died, it has fought on, it has decided that it will make it stand and continue to exist, despite the forces of nature and the forces of the universe trying to crush them. There's the Imperial Guard, who despite being just normal human beings, go out and face the enemies of the Imperium on open battlefields, even when most of them dramatically outclass each individual human in terms of strength or in terms of intelligence or weaponry. There are the Space Marines, who have given up everything that they could be in order to defend humanity from the evil that could destroy them. And there's the reflection of their religion. Now again, religion is something that a lot of people bring up in the Warhammer 40,000 universe as being a dark thing. I mean, there's a lot of heresy going around, there's lots of people who are burnt and suffer because they don't believe in the religion. The whole point of the Imperial religion is that it's something that people can strive for in a universe that's incredibly dark. There's something that is reflected today. I'm not a religious person, I consider myself an atheist, but I can see why in a universe where everything is out to get you, where your next breath could be your last, it is the comfort of knowing that there is some sort of deity that is on your side, that is not seeking to suck your soul or requires any sort of payment. All they are doing is they're trying to preserve humanity and help them achieve any destiny that they have. Now again, that's not only to say that humanity is right. I mean, there's the Tau with their greater good, which is of course a very noble philosophy, despite the way they sort of implement it by forcing it down people's throats. There's the Eldar with their dedication to emotional tranquility, despite the fact that they have raging emotions and they have a dark side that no one would wish upon another. And there's people even like the Necrons, who were a race so downtrodden and so physically disabled that they sought to destroy those more perfect than themselves and created metal bodies in order to do that, which then resulted in a lot of death and destruction. But they are not deliberately malicious entities at heart, just misguided. From the Warhammer 40,000 universe, you can see reflections of humanity throughout. Everything that we are, everything that we've ever done, and what we may do in the future can be reflected in the Warhammer 40,000 universe, in the background lore, and everything about the Imperium and the Milky Way in the 41st millennium. And that is why I love it so much, that it is a reflection of what we are, and it's a symbol that even in the darkest days, there is hope. There is a chance that if you fight hard enough, if you strive long enough, you may reach your goal, and you may achieve whatever it is you seek to achieve. And that, ladies and gents, is why I love the Warhammer 40,000 universe. I love the lore, I love the immense background, I love everything about it, and it's why I've tried to absorb as much of the lore in my short life so far as possible. Now, it doesn't mean that I've read every book, I'm not that fiscally sound, but it does mean that I will continue to produce Warhammer 40,000 lore videos as much as possible. I will do what I can, when I can, and hopefully I can help to bring the knowledge of Warhammer 40,000 to the rest of the people who watch these videos, and let them know that the Warhammer 40,000 universe is a lot more than just some plastic figures or some clever coding in a video game. It is something very vast and something that we can all enjoy. So, that's pretty much everything I wanted to say today. Thank you, YouTube, for the Geek Week. I'm sure it's produced a lot of interesting stuff for people to watch. One thing I'm going to go into just before I leave is that I am aware that there's a lot of people sort of in my comment section going on about the fact that I pronounce things wrong. Okay, yep, I'll hold my hand up, I do pronounce things wrong. It's because I'm reading very quickly from a sheet in front of me, and I usually don't catch it in the audio editing, so I'll usually add an extra A, or miss out a letter, so I do apologise for that. Just to give you two examples of why that's probably is, it's because I've spent most of my youth pronouncing Tyranids as Tyranids. It's also because until 2010 I thought the word bearers were the world bearers. Both myself and my little brother both read that word as world bearers for over a decade. I'll just leave you with that, and I hope you all had a great Geek Week, and I hope to see you next time on the Vaults of Terra.